for 12, and truly kind of a midway into the month of October, that it's earthquakes, aftershocks, shaking, and then it settles down, and then another thing comes. So this week is going to require, I think, a lot of us to stay connected. And I'm going to actually read the affirmations that I wrote up. I don't know why affirmations came up today, but I just wrote it up. And I think this might be a good place to start. I was going to share that at the end, but I think it's good. So it says, I wrote, today I choose to be grounded in my integrity, and I trust the expansion and recalibration. So today I choose to be grounded in my own integrity, and I trust the expansion and recalibration. So let's just start there and maybe settle into your integrity for a moment, all of us, and let's have a little bit of breathing. So if we can all just come into our own body for a moment, embodying who you are. That's getting a little tougher and tougher every day to embody ourselves. So maybe some of you are feeling exhausted. Some of you might be feeling like a chronic thing starting to come up. Sleep might be disturbed. Weird stomach stuff I started to have with Chris, even had it too one night. It was the 10-10. So that's a couple days ago. That was a big one. So I think our bodies are asking us to come home for a moment and focus on your exhales. We take in so much. So see if you could breathe out some of it out and return them to the earth. Allow Mother Gaia to help us. So as you breathe out, see if you could breathe out of the bottom of your feet. You can either imagine standing on the grass or sandy beach, or maybe your favorite path that you took your shoes off and walking on. Just imagine you're returning some of your overwhelm, some of that feeling of too much back into the earth. And take your own breath in and out one more time, focusing on your exhales. And I'm going to actually have you take one more breath, and at the end of your exhale, see if you could hold that breath for maybe about 5 seconds. If you could hold it a little longer, that'll be great. And feel free to start to breathe in when you need to. So exhales are great because the exhales, and when you hold it, that's when you get to tune into your parasympathetic nervous system. So at least takes you to the place of digesting information. That's when you're repairing yourself. That's rest and digest and healing. Okay. And we do go in, some of us do go into too much into the parasympathetic also. I work with a lot of empaths that are kind of stuck in a freeze mode. So be aware of that. If you feel like you are opossums, that are just pretending to be not moving, okay, then you might be in the freeze mode. And that means that you took the parasympathetic nervous system a little too far. So that's when holding it at the exhale is actually helpful, because you'll take this really big inhale afterwards. That can kick it up a notch, and that can get your nervous system to start moving. Okay, so if you're feeling stuck and lethargic and completely wiped out, you may want to hold the breath and allow the inhale to really take over. And then do that a couple of times in a very gentle manner. Okay. So this week is it's going to be like an out, again, constant aftershocks, but it's going to be redirecting us constantly. What I feel and what I sense from the weather too, that I know wherever you are, different weathers, but we started to get this crazy wind here in Colorado, just blowing wind. And we generally get this as the fall comes through. But yesterday's wind, I don't even know how fast it was, but it was just pretty brutal. And so I feel like I'm having to course correct myself constantly and redirecting and putting the sails up in a different way. So I'm still navigating through this and I'm still moving forward, but seems like I was drifting a little bit out of the course. So you may feel that a little bit this week. And let's see, I have a lot to share today. And I wanted to talk about the word casting vote, casting your ballots. But before that, just a quick, thing about this week. We have a couple big things happening, right? The Mercury retrograde is going to go retrograde on the 13th/14th. So depending on where you live, but in the United States, it'll be on the 13th in the evening. So it's like a 9 p.m. in Eastern daytime. And, if you're in other time zones, it'll be on the 14th. So it's a great opportunity to do a lot of rewinding, perhaps, a lot of the words, something. And we'll go over that a little bit later, okay? But that's one thing that's happening. So be conscious, nothing to fear, but it's just something that may slow you down a little bit. And a Mercury retrograde is something that I take it as an opportunity for my brain to get recalibrated. So for those of you that are interested in neuroplasticity, which I am and Chris is also, that we love just introducing our brains to different way of wiring, right? The cells that fire together, they wire together. So this is a great opportunity till November 3rd, right? To rewire what's going on. And you might actually start to notice that normally you will think this way in this pattern, but you might be introduced to a new way of looking at things. And you go, well, that's just not the way I normally do things. Don't be alarmed. Just say, how interesting, can you stay curious? So if you're right brain, maybe you're more right brain dominant, you usually visualize things. Even your dreams are generally very colorful and, flowy, more visualization that comes through. You might start to dream in more numbers or geometric stuff or things like a squares and shapes, the 3D shapes and things are starting to come up. Great. Okay. You're shifting your brain a little bit. And that's kind of what happens. So allow that to happen. Stay curious, remain in the place of kind of witnessing how this is unfolding all across the universe right now. And witnessing is a good place to be when you're in the Mercury retrograde, instead of like dive deep into it, because it can suck you in. Okay. And obvious stuff that most of Chris and I constantly say this during this time is double check, triple check, and quadruple checks might be good. So if you're going to cast the ballot and it's a mailing ballot, make sure your signature is there, so on and so forth. So, and making sure that all the things are marked that you need to, and before you send in your emails or whatever, double check that and triple check that it's going to the right person, so on and so forth, right? And so we are rewiring our own brain. So it's a really fascinating time to be here, as the world is, particularly in the United States, it's getting really ramped up with energies that are it's really hard to digest right now. So stay with it. I think it's good that we are recalibrating our brain, so that maybe that will give us some tools to work with it, deal with this pressure, the downward pressure that the many of us are feeling right now. Okay. And I noticed that my shifts are not just in my brains, but my hips are shifting a little bit. My spine is shifting quite a bit. And then also I have a right ankle that tends to do weird things during the Mercury retrograde. And I'm having to deal with my left neck to shift my right foot so it's not rotated out so much. So you might notice some weird things like that. And on the physical level, you may have to address your old choices in terms of your physical choices that you've made. So from diet to sleep patterns to I'm sticking with the physical right now, but even like surgeries that you've done in the past may require you to revisit that surgery. The maybe knee replacement that you had done 12 years ago may need to be looked at again, or maybe something isn't quite working out, or you had implants done and that needs to be addressed this during the Mercury retrograde. Those are some of the old patterns, old way of doing some choices that you've made long time ago. It's generally right now it's about 12 years ago kind of a choices are coming back. So just be a little bit conscious of that and know that you're transforming, and there's a lot of old patterns of undoing them in order to rebirth. Okay. So, and then I have other things to share, but I wanted to come back up to, so those are some of the Mercury, and I will talk about Mars retrograde also. And we have a new moon on Friday. So that's something I will talk about it a little bit later. Okay. So far, everything's okay, right? So let's go into the word cast. Some of you know that the words interest me, maybe because I've learned multiple languages throughout my life, and English is my second language, but I love looking up words and seeing what does cast ballots means, or what is it to cast. So I went in a little bit deeper to figure out if there are other meanings that I wanted to address today. And number one, cast is to shape metal or other materials by pouring it into a mold while molten. Okay, so when the metals are melted in there, it's molten, so it's like a liquidy form. We shape them into a certain way. So I thought that we're doing kind of the same thing. So it's not just casting your ballot right now, your own vote, your own voice, but we are shaping our future and your future self this month, and in the future goals and future dreams and future self that I've been mentioning about March of 2021, that you want to keep on hand and keep it, focused, right? So you're reshaping your future self right now. Okay. It might not happen right away. And in fact, it probably won't, because we're still in the molten stage, but you may want to start to look into what container do you want to pour yourself into. So in this month in particular, you want to look into the shape, sculpting yourself. How do you want to form your life? How would you like to arrange yourself? What do you see yourself creating? So, casting means to shape, but it's to carve, it's to shape yourself and arrange it in the way that you want to. So be creative. Okay. Some of you I'm definitely getting a lot more creative, but it's been so kind of chaotic that I can't sit down and get into the full motion of creativity. But that feeling is starting to come up. So I'm slowly shaping that into whether poetry, or it could be different kind of writing. It could be painting. It could be, painting your room in a different color, whatever that may be. Okay. So ask yourself, what are you creating in your life? What is the shape and form you wish to become? And, some of us are becoming molten right now. We're just, like it or not, we're getting melted. I'm melting kind of things going on. Right. So, really take the time. This is an opportunity to to find out your true expression. And what would that look like in shape? Okay. And then the second meaning of to cast or cast, right, also means discard. So what are you no longer accepting right now? And what are you rejecting and discarding and shedding from, what are you shedding from your life? And this is one of those things that I've been really encouraging all of you to do for the last minimum of 2 months. Since August, I've been saying, slowly start work on your old patterns. What are you needing to shed on the practical level of closets, right? It's like, do you have things you just don't need anymore? I even said to Chris, I'm like, we don't need all these wine glasses. Like, what is the point of this, right? So we're starting to kind of collect all those things and then boxing them up. And right now you can't just drop the box of your donations. You have to call them and then make an appointment. So I've been making appointments like every 2 weeks to drop small amounts, and they already know me by first name now. So, because I just kind of go and, donate small amount, but just, what are you shedding in your life and what are you letting fall away? And this week is really important that you do this because we're heading towards the new moon. So what that means is that we are illuminating certain things less, right? And so we're waning them. So we are actually removing before we start to go back up into our second full moon. As many of you know, it's on the Halloween, right? That's when you're going to wax. So that means you're going to be adding things back on. But before you add things back on, what can you get rid of? So really direct your energy towards what can I discard? What is no longer acceptable to who I am in my future vision of who I am. Okay. So, when your metal is all melted and when you're putting into a shape that you wish to establish, you don't have all these little, gunk and junk that you're going to be putting that into. Okay. And let's see, let me just look over my notes that I had. I was profusely writing this last night. So yeah, so what is emptying out? That's something you really want to look into this week so that the following week, towards the end of the October, we can now revisit what's coming back in, right? In order to clean out the closet, you got to make a huge mess first, right? You got to pull things out. And then you want to sort out what's going to go back in there, what's going to become who I am. So really pay attention to what's emptying out and what's needing to stay, and what are some of the things that are going to potentially come back in, and what is renewing in your life, and what is resetting is one of the things I wrote down. But take the time to reflect and unwind, because now we're going into Mercury retrograde. So this is the time that the cosmic energy is going to ask you to redirect, to rethink, to relinquish things. To relinquish is to give up, right? So what are you holding on to so tightly? What are some of the controls that you are still holding on to? What can you relinquish and renounce? Maybe handing it over. Maybe you need a little bit of help, but you've been feeling like you're the only one that has to get this done. So, maybe you can ask for some support in that and relinquish some of that control. And surrendering is a big one during retrograde as well, Mercury retrograde. And it's remembering to reflect, slow it down a little bit, because the electronic stuff are going to go glitchy during the Mercury retrograde. Many of us have experienced it. So instead of fighting that, you've got to double check, triple check, but maybe remember to reflect. Maybe this is the time that you pick up the book that you've been wanting to read or to listen, and then do that instead. Okay. And wanted to just make sure that we cover the Mars retrograde also, because during the Mars retrograde, which we are in, we are working on our old ego and our old feelings. And this week is going to be kind of an emotional week where you will be addressing a lot of your old emotions, and then your ego is going to try to fight that. So what you want to do is really a lot of fourth chakra, the heart-centered heart-oriented meditation, heart expressions, maybe, draw some hearts, or get yourself pink stones, or something like that, to get that little bit more heart opening. Do some Bastrika, as many of you know my breathing that I love doing, that bellows breath. That might be great, because that's a great way to crack open the heart and get engaged. So the old scars may come up, because during the Mars retrograde, and I'm not talking about Mercury right now, Mercury will bring that out, but the Mars retrograde will also bring out the old scars, particularly with the ego and your emotions. So, you may need to address some ancestral issues. Maybe it's time to visit, maybe your grandparents' grave if you haven't been there for a while. It's for northern hemisphere, it's the fall, so maybe go with the broom and dustpan and clean out the grave sites and bring some beautiful full color flowers for them. So just revisit some of those things, do some of those things that will feed your soul and feed your heart, and to really reconnect with who you are on this earth. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I think those are some of the things I would say. So I've talked about the number one is the molten idea, right? So casting is to reshape. The second one was to discard. And then number three, the meaning of cast is to throw. And many of you know, like to toss or hurl, right? So what are you casting? And then in this case, I look at it as more like a casting the net, or even, I will talk about this a little bit later, but like a spreading, like what are you spreading, right? And that can be taken as like what's going on with the COVID too. There's a lot of spreading that is happening there too, but I want you to take it a little bit more on the inner level. What are you spreading out? And this is something that goes into the next meaning of the cast. So besides the throw, is to cast light or shadow to appear on the surfaces. That's the fourth meaning of cast. So like a moonlight over a hill or a lake or a town. And oftentimes what I see, and when I work with clients, sometimes like their spells, like they have spells that being cast over them. They were told as a kid that oh, you're never creative, or you'll never be, an artist, or you've always been this way. Any of those kind of terminologies are a spell, or you've been, you have a cast. You've been cast, I guess, casted. I don't know. I mean, Chris, you can chime in and help me with the English part.
I think you're saying that a spell has been cast on you.
Yeah, that's it. So, it's like you might want to look into that. This is a great time because Mercury is going to retrograde and Mars is retrograding right now. So both of those are going to ask you to go into some of the old emotional patterns and old ego, old way of thinking. That's more of a Mars job. Okay. And then Mercury is going to tell you to rewrite that, rewire that and rewrite that. Okay. So look into, and then some of the things that you've casted over, over the years. What have you casted upon yourself, upon your family members, upon others, right? And I always laugh at that comment that the Carolyn May says, it's like, I'm just kind of not directly quoting her because I can't exactly remember, but she says something like, remember that some people are getting their psychotherapy or like psychotherapy or some kind of a counseling done because you might have caused them to have to go see a psychotherapist. Okay, so it's not always about what other people have casted upon you, or the spells that you are under, but maybe some of that you have unconsciously done. Maybe those need some healing also. Okay. And so it requires you to just stop and feel into it and not stay curious and be kind when you do this kind of work, because it could bring up a lot of emotions, right? And that's what the Mars retrograde is doing. It's a lot of emotional things that are going to come up, especially this week. So be kind, don't peel away at your onion too quickly. Okay. And you can also, let me just see. I think those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, like a magic or spell that I wanted to talk about. And one of the things that I wanted you to think about is like, what are you emitting out or illuminating? What do you want to eliminate? What do you want to shine light on? Okay, what are you projecting out? And is it your highest expression of who you are? And what do you want to see yourself, but to see the world see in the future? So those are some of the things that you're casting out right now. Okay. And then another meaning of the casting is to form or shape a limb that has been broken or used to support and protect it. So we know that, if you have broken your arm or something, you put, the doctor will put you on the cast, right? So it's the plaster cast. And I was starting to think about that, I was tuning into that meaning of it. And I thought, when you have to put a arm on the cast, it takes a long time, like minimum about 3 months. And a doctor would generally say, depending on how much injury you sustained, you may have to be in that cast for like 6 months, right? So let's stay patient, okay? In order to heal the brokenness, it may take some time, okay? So, but you're doing this, you're putting your voice and you're putting yourself out there so that the world can start to heal. But the healing process may feel long. You can't actually see it because it's inside the cast, and you don't know how it's going to be afterwards. And you'll still have to do some PT, you still have to do some movements, you still have to work on it. But that's kind of what we're getting formed into right now. But know that it is going to heal. It is going to come together. But it's not an overnight fix. Okay. And so it requires patience, is something that I talked about in the month of September. And I said, the patience is going to come in. My fifth thing that, 5 things I talked about in September. And I said, the fifth thing is the patience. And then that is still the theme this month. Okay. Be patient, stay curious, take your time, be kind about, peeling away at some of your old patterns and old habits and so on and so forth. Okay. And world is changing, right? Its transformation is happening, even though you can't see it. And you will become more clear on who you want to become in this new world. That's why this month is a key to saving some energies into your savings account, right? Energy savings account. And then also to trust and have faith in this transformation. So for those of you that did not hear my affirmations that I wrote up early on, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the call today, is that today I choose to be grounded in my own integrity, and I trust the expansion and recalibration. So I think that is something that, as you put your arm or whatever into a cast, okay, trust that the healing is happening. Okay. So I'm going to, let's see, I have couple more things to share, but I think I'm going to pause. Chris, do you see any questions? You want to share some thoughts before I go forward?
Yeah, no questions so far. Just a couple of observations from Richard, who's taking things in stride today, it sounds like. And Janice asked if you could repeat the affirmation. If you want to just
Sure.
do that one more time.
Or Chris, you might want to write it down on
Yeah, go ahead and
that
say it and
chat.
I'll type it up.
Okay. So I'm going to say today. So, okay, hold on a sec before I start, everyone. So this affirmation just kind of came to me and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't usually have like different affirmations every day, just so you know. I stick with like one affirmations for pretty long time till inner body says, okay, you can shift out. So this was definitely a shifting out. So the one I wrote up for myself was, today I choose to be grounded in my own integrity. And I trust the expansion and recalibration. Okay. And since I have a couple questions that came in so I will address that. But I wanted to read this paragraph that I just was in a stream of consciousness. I haven't reread it, but I'm going to read it now. I wrote down, take some time and space to become aware of your own feelings and anchor or ground your feelings. Okay. So not just become aware of it, because then it stays in the heart center to the mind center. So anchor them down, anchor your feelings down, especially in the morning before starting the day. I would get out of the bed and do this, more of a vertical. Okay. So don't do this in bed horizontal, but get out of bed, get grounded, maybe stand on the grass, maybe stand on the concrete, or if you can't get to the earthly materials, you can even just touch like a plant that you have. Okay. Because that's going to earth you. Okay. So get out of bed and set aside some time for you to consciously ground and center yourself. Root yourself deep and wide so you are able to withstand the winds that will try to throw off your balance. Be in your center despite the noise around you. Find your integrity. Winds of change are coming, and they are here. So it's the winds of change are reorienting you. It's redirecting your sails and focus on where you're headed. So refocus on where you're headed. So you know where the lighthouse is. We've been talking about it. Keep the lighthouse, keep that light shining for you. But you have to kind of keep redirecting yourself this month. Particularly this week, it's going to be like that on the emotional front. Okay. And let me just say one more thing about the Mercury retrograde. Because we're having to readjust so much this week, your boundaries are shifting too. So it's going to require a little bit more clarity, and refining your boundaries are going to be inside out. It's going to be important. So what that means that you've got to eat better, everyone. Okay. And I'm saying this to myself because I kind of went nuts with the little bit of lemon bars this weekend because I made lemon bars. And I think Chris and I ate the half a pan in one day. And I'm just curious if any of you are feeling this, but just like eating is so weird. I almost like don't want to eat. I didn't want to eat for several days over the weekend. Eating just is not interesting to me. And when I want to eat, I'm just like, I'm so disconnected from what is my body needing. So it's like, whatever, it's easy. Okay. And I know that today my body's like, seriously, you're going to continue doing this? You did this for 3 straight days. So I'm redefining my boundaries inside my gut, because when I eat that way, my body becomes permeable. I get gut pain and my liver starts to suffer and my lining gets very inflamed. And what happens is I get eye rashes. I get these little dots around my eyes. Okay. And that's a sign that my liver's like, you know what? Thanks a lot for how you're treating me. And it gets a little bit angry. It's like an angry bumps. So I know that I have to reconnect, be healing to myself. So I got back on doing like L-glutamine as a powder to heal my gut lining. And yeah, I talked about the, refilling the energy savings account. Okay. Keep up with that. That means a little more silence, everyone, a little more harvesting pauses. Okay. And I'm still here, but I'm pausing. Okay. All right. And then check, like I said, check with your diet a little bit more. Keep your integrity in all areas of your life. So relationships are going to be very important right now to keep your integrity, anchor your emotions down. Don't let it fly off. Okay. And your voices are changing, particularly in terms of the volume and the messaging that you have, maybe vibration and frequencies are changing. So I started to notice that the voices are a little bit different for me. It feels like a little bit higher pitch for me. I've always had a pretty low voice, but the pitch is coming up a little bit. And I'm speaking maybe a little bit on the upper third chakra. I'm usually pretty good about speaking from the second chakra, but it's a little bit higher up. So I'm just paying attention to that too, everyone. Okay. So those are the things. And I had a question that came in about migraines. And this person's been having a migraine since September, I think she said, or August maybe. And she said, is this a recalibration kind of a thing? And so you know me, if you know me and my work, I don't always just go into the body, mind, spirit only. There's so much energetic fields going on right now. The recalibration is happening, transformation is happening. It's quite fast, so it's really hard to keep up with it. And it's like I told you this, but like a scrambled eggs inside my head. So yes, there is that going on. Okay. But when I tuned into this person, what I felt was that there's this like an overwhelming amount of, I would say, toxicity that could be from air. And also your liver is kind of tired out. Okay. Just tired out. So what I would ask you to do is to do maybe 3 days of maybe doing liver cleansing, kind of a tea at night around 8 o'clock at night. It's great. Yeah, for you too. That's something that has milk thistle in it. And then just really thank the liver, use your hands and thank your liver and gallbladder, because migraine is on the physiological level. It's so much to do with what's going on with your bile flow. And so what that means is that your bile is not flowing through the body and it's getting stuck. And so like a motor oil getting really sticky and it's not flowing through. So I would check in with your stools. Are you, having good stools every day? Check out the Bristol stool charts and make sure that you are number 4 on Bristol stool charts. Okay. Okay. And really take care of your liver. And liver loves to have a little time off from eating also. Okay. So if you don't have diabetes and if you're not having blood sugar dysregulation issues, then you may want to just skip a dinner for next 3 days. Just give your body a break because it's just overwhelming. Everything is coming at you. Okay. It's too much, too much, too much. It's like you can't digest it. Your mind can't digest it. Your liver can't process it. So see what you can do there and let me know. Okay. Any questions coming in, Chris? Because I'm gonna check.
Yeah, there
I
are two
received
questions.
I received another really interesting question, so I'm gonna pull
Okay.
that up. But go ahead and ask me those, or if you can,
So
you might want to answer them too.
there were two. One of them was from Sharon, and she asked if you could remind what you did for hair loss. That was one, and then also Mary lost her mother on her birthday, which was just a couple days ago, October 9th. And so she's asking if you have any recommendations about sleep and stress.
Mm. Oh, Mary, I'm sorry to hear this. This is a difficult time to lose somebody too, and especially your own mother. We have close to 40 people on this call. Can we just pause for a moment? Whatever you're doing, hopefully nobody's multitasking, but let's just, first of all, rub your hands together, everyone. This center is beautiful center for energy to come through. And just just hold that space for Mary, from all of us. And she's already feeling this. Wow, I'm buzzing. So I just send Mary love, light. It's funny, the color that's coming to me today is actually purple. So send her purple. Like a light purple and marbled with some dark colors to it too. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. You know, Mary, this is such an interesting topic. Chris and I are taking a retreat this month, and it'll go till November 1st, and it's a virtual retreat. And it's called Being Mortal. And so Chris and I are talking a lot about becoming and be going. So what that means is, what are you becoming? So it's the living and then dying. And to really look at the process of dying head on. And Chris and I have been talking about maybe doing just like a one weekend with all of you to do a little, like a small retreat around this topic. And I was kind of hoping to do that this month, because this month is a perfect month to discuss dying, death, and beyond. And then really talk about the past as well as the future, and where do you hold yourself. So Mary, one thing that I'm really feeling is that your mom has just passed. So usually when they pass, and if the person is ready to speak using me as a channel, they come through me. Okay. But what's interesting about your mom is that your mom is standing far away from me right now. I see her, but I see her as almost like a tiny little figure. She's really just kind of taking her time with this transition. So if you could just maybe stay with it and not rush the process, allow her to move through this process, and that gives you some time also to move through the grieving process. I hope that's making sense in your heart as what I'm saying, because she's willing to, she has the door open and she's looking at me, but she says, I'm just not quite ready to talk about this. So can we address this again? Can I come see you again? So I'm telling her that's fine. Anytime is fine. Come when you need to. So I will stay in touch with you about this. But what I can tell you about sleep, it's about the sleep, right? Sleep and stress. This sounds weird, but please don't stress about your sleep. Sleep will happen maybe in the form of dozing off during the day. Sleep will happen in like more of a nap. Sleep will happen in short spurts, okay? And your job is not to think about sleep has to be 8 hours. Sleep has to look like this. So don't get so caught up in the notion of what good sleep is, because that's what causes more stress. So sleep or get rest whenever you can, okay? When my father died, it was one of those things that I just didn't really worry about sleep. And I didn't really sleep for the first 10 days or so, 10 to 15 days. And then I slept and slept and slept like every single day for the next month. So the body will catch up to it. Okay. So allow that unfolding to happen a little bit more naturally for you. Okay. And my heart is with you. Okay. Yeah. This is a very difficult time to lose someone. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else, Chris, you see that
Yeah, there was a question about just reminding about what can be done for hair loss
Oh, that's right.
And then
Yeah.
there's another question about having some right side spasms in the middle back.
Right, right. What is it?
The right side having spasms in the middle of the back.
Okay. Yeah, I think Chris, you may have some ideas about that one. The hair loss. Okay, so hair loss is, something that I was dealing with in September. Yeah, and about 2 weeks ago, about 10 days ago, it finally stopped for me. But I was rejoicing, actually. It scared me at first because the clumps of them were coming off. But now it totally slowed down. I feel amazing because I know I went through detox, major detox. And I tell you, on the energetic level, I know I went through recalibration. It's like I went into a different realm and something twisted me. Like, it's so hard to describe. Like, something went like this with me, like this. Okay. And like turning a jar, and almost could audibly hear like click, 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 click. And I went into a different, like, I'm spiraling up, and I'm able to look at things from a very different standpoint. But I'm so grounded, like as if I got super tall, and because I'm less than 5'2", right, everyone? But I feel like my legs just stretched out, and I'm able to see things from a higher perspective, and I'm not fearful. So, Sharon, what I would recommend is that allow the hair loss to happen if that's happening, okay? And it stopped for me completely. And I attribute it to, first of all, iodine helping me to detox, and iodine helping me to regrow my hair. But what happened is that during the hair loss, I almost stopped having absolutely almost no gray hair. Okay. So I know some of you think I'm like 32, but I'm heading towards 50. So I should be having gray hair, but I'm not having gray hair. And all the gray hair gone, like totally gone. Okay. So I just say, stay with it. Okay. So Sharon, when I tune into you, I think you might actually be helped by a little bit of three, four, three, yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. Do the what's that thing I've been drinking, Chris? The that you don't like. I know I take so many things.
Collagen.
Collagen.
Yeah.
Do some collagen. Okay. Collagen feels really good with you, with a little bit of MCT oil, just a little bit of MCT oil in the morning. Okay. Good. And then the right side in the middle, and is it an upper middle? That's where I sense, but like between shoulder blades is what I feel. Yeah. Chris, you have something to say?
Well, I
It's
think
a
that,
little bit of spinal adjustments happening
yeah,
to that
there's part of,
person.
I have some issues with this just from past injuries, but I know that a big part of it is sitting too long at a computer with your arms by your sides and half raised to type. That creates compression in the middle of the spine, especially between the shoulder blades. And so doing a lateral stretch with your arm over your head and kind of leaning over to one side and then the other is a good way to help release those ribs and open that up. So that's one thing you can do that's just a very physical, practical thing. Or hanging to stretch, like hanging from a bar, hanging with your fingers over the door frame.
Okay, so and then I'm just going to go into the organs because they're one particular organ that the really is talking actually to. Kidneys. I want you to look at your kidneys. Something is just like not flowing through there. So what I would do is a little bit more lymphatic work. So dry brushing from the legs up into the belly area and making sure that you're not holding on to the fluids. Okay. Pinch of sea salt in the water obviously is helpful because your adrenals and kidneys kind of go together. There's been a lot of stress in your life also that you feel like you have to carry on your right shoulder. Also, there's like a lot of burden, expectations that you put on yourself, as well as some kind of like almost responsibilities that you have to take on as a, one of the family members and things like that. So I would look into that as well as kidney support.
Can I
Okay.
add to that? Magnesium would be
Oh
a
yeah.
possible help, especially if stress is high right now. That magnesium is a mineral that our bodies use up. There's a measurable burn rate that we have with magnesium when we're in stress. So yeah, I'm seeing other people writing in about knee and calf cramps. Yes,
Mm,
this is all magnesium, possibly potassium also. But when you get into these kinds of muscular spasms and cramps, that's a very good indication that the stress is depleting you of these essential mineral nutrients. So magnesium would be the first one, potassium would be the second one to look at, and then possibly even third would be calcium.
and Samantha, for you, okay, I just kind of tune into you, but knee and the calf cramps, I would look into methylfolate. Methylfolate. I'll be working with you this week, so I'll give you a little bit more understanding of that. But methylfolate would be really good. Okay. And I'm gonna just go to the email that I received, and then I'm gonna wrap up. I know there's some questions coming in, but we can address that again too. Where did it go? Here it is. I just thought I might just read this question and I may not have a full answer, but here it is. So she said, there's so much being stirred up right now in the collective, etc. How to help people deal with the anxiety and uncertainty of these times. Okay. So I think I've been addressing that a little bit with this idea of casting. Okay. And COVID. She says it's also adding a lot of stress. And I think people are COVID out. I think many people thought that it would just go away, and that's not the case. Any words to help people during this ongoing saga of COVID? First of all, don't look at it as a saga, but it's not over. So I think that's the thinking that we really need to be addressing, right? It's that we're so not good with the discomfort, but it's staying with it just a bit longer. And many of you that have been doing a lot of work with me for a while now know that the staying with the discomfort and staying with the pauses, staying with silence just a bit longer is so uncomfortable for most people, particularly in the Western world. But stay with it. So that's going to help you actually get that muscles to get stronger, muscles to stay with uncomfortable situations, unknown, not knowing. Those are all the things that our ego mind struggle with, right? And to take it seriously and to really start taking your immune support, doing some things for your immune, start taking care of your gut health, because 70% of your immune system is located in your gut. So like I said, I told myself enough with eating crap, and I need to take care of myself because flu season's coming, right? For people that live in Northern Hemisphere. So we need to be aware of that. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going into the wet kind of a kappa season, which can be very phlegmy to your lungs, right? Spring is the earth and water mixture, so it gets muddy. So you want to make sure you're not doing things that will create more phlegm, like dairy products can create a lot of phlegm, okay? Or foods that you're allergic to, okay? So gluten can cause a lot of phlegm. She said earthquakes, etc., referencing what you spoke about in your monthly message. I think reinforcing for people, helping them navigate this month, next month, and December, ideas and suggestions to help them. So I think, I'm addressing that. It seems apparent to me that with the election, it won't be over with on the election day, basically, right? Obviously, or a week after that. Mercury, so the Mars retrograde ends on the 13th. So I suspect it's going to go on till, minimum at that time. And anything you can share. And, there's the, maybe I'll talk about the Phoenix rising next week a little bit more,
How
so I
about
don't go
wrapping
too
it?
long.
How about
Yeah.
wrapping up today with you asked me if I might find a random poem, and I actually opened up to
Yeah.
there's a Rumi poem that I've had sitting with a mark in it, waiting for the right moment, and this might be it. And This question that came up was a perfect lead into it, because it's about really how to hold paradoxes and how to be with things that seem to contradict each other. And so what in a way is being asked of us, and you've set it up nicely with this idea of casting. What are we throwing in front of us? What are we throwing away behind us? And how do we hold the conflicting realities that we are encountering? So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and read it.
Yes, that'll be great. Yeah, and then thank you, everyone. I know I got a couple more questions, but we'll try to get to that next week. Okay. And it helps me if you could go to Facebook or something and write them down too, so I can take a look. All right. All right, Chris, do you want to read that poem
Yeah,
to
go
us?
ahead. I put it into the chat so everyone can follow too.
Okay.
This is a good one. This is one of my favorites. So it's called Tending Two Shops. Don't run around this world looking for a hole to hide in. There are wild beasts in every cave. If you live with mice, the cat claws will find you. The only real rest comes when you're alone with God. Live in the nowhere that you came from, even though you have an address here. That's why you see things in two ways. Sometimes you look at a person and see a cynical snake. Someone else sees a joyful lover, and you're both right. Everyone is half and half, like the black and white ox. Joseph looked ugly to his brothers and most handsome to his father. You have eyes that see from that nowhere, and eyes that judge distances, how high and how low. You own two shops, and you run back and forth. Try to close the one that's a fearful trap, getting always smaller. Checkmate this way, checkmate that. Keep open the shop where you're not selling fish hooks anymore. You are the free swimming fish.
Yeah. I'm going to read that one part that I love. It's, live in the nowhere that you came from, even though you have an address here. Live in the nowhere that you came from, even though you have an address here. And I don't know if any of you noticed it, but my voice totally changed again. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm buzzing on my left side. So yeah, this is why we're going to stay in touch, everyone, every Monday till a week after the election. So, okay. Thank you, Chris, for sharing that. That's exactly where we need to be. And that's where you will feel. Keep the shop open.
Okay. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to have all the answers.
Yeah. And take time this week to rewind or unplug, slow down, revisit. Okay. And really, I felt it that, I wish I could go and visit my grandparents' gravesite back in Japan. But I'm going to do it virtually from here. So, do something like that to honor where you come from. So they are supporting you to move forward. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lydia, for showing up. I know it's late over there, but thank you. And thank you for everyone for showing up. Mary, my heart goes out to you. I hope you felt that purplish light from all of us. Good. All right. So I will see you next Monday, and we will be working on this little retreat idea. I think it'd just be nice to come together and do more of a writing and poetry and celebrate dying and living. So look for that later on this week. Thank you, everyone.